Puppy sleeps outside a hospital every night when a doctor finds out why. He breaks down in tears. Chapter 1: A Mysterious Visitor. The hospital was a place of both healing and heartbreak, where life and death coexisted in a delicate balance. Among the daily hustle of doctors, nurses, and patients, an unusual presence caught everyone's attention. Every night, just as the last rays of the sun disappeared behind the city skyline, a small puppy would arrive and settle outside the hospital's entrance. It was a tiny creature, barely 6 months old, with golden fur that had dulled under the city's dust. No one knew where it came from, and no one knew why it stayed. At first, people ignored it. Stray dogs weren't uncommon in the city, and the hospital was a warm spot under the glow of streetlights. But as days turned into weeks, the sight of the puppy curled up on the cold pavement, waiting patiently, became impossible to overlook. Nurses on the night shift often whispered about the dog's unwavering routine. Some staff members even took pity on the poor thing, leaving out scraps of food and water. But no matter what, the puppy never ventured far. It simply waited. Chapter 2: A Doctor's Curiosity. Dr. Adam Carter was a man of science, driven by logic and reason. As one of the hospital's senior doctors, his days were filled with long shifts, difficult diagnoses, and life-saving surgeries. Yet, every night when he left the hospital, he noticed the same scene: the little puppy curled up near the entrance, its eyes full of longing. One evening, as Adam exited the hospital, he paused near the puppy. It looked up at him with deep brown eyes, filled with an emotion he couldn't quite place. "Why are you here, little one?" he murmured, crouching down. The puppy didn't flinch or run. Instead, it wagged its tail weakly, as if recognizing kindness in the doctor's voice. Something about the puppy's presence stirred an unfamiliar feeling in Adam. It was as if the tiny creature was carrying a silent sorrow, a longing that even humans could understand. Unable to shake the feeling, Adam decided to find out the truth. Chapter 3: Following the Puppy. That night, instead of heading home, Adam lingered near the hospital entrance. He wanted to see where the puppy went when dawn arrived. As the first light of morning crept over the city, the puppy finally stirred. Stretching its tiny legs, it stood, glanced at the hospital doors one last time, and trotted off down the street. Curious, Adam followed. The puppy walked with purpose, weaving through the city's early morning bustle. Adam kept his distance, careful not to startle the animal. Finally, after several blocks, the puppy turned into a small alley and disappeared behind a crumbling brick building. Stepping closer, Adam found himself in front of a small house with peeling paint and broken windows. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a silent, empty home. Inside, the air was thick with neglect, and a faint smell of medicine lingered in the air. The puppy padded toward a small mattress on the floor, nudging a piece of worn-out clothing with its nose. A deep sadness settled in Adam's chest as he realized the house was abandoned. But this had once been someone's home, and judging by the puppy's attachment, it had been someone's home too. Chapter 4: The Truth Revealed. Determined to uncover the mystery, Adam made some inquiries. The neighborhood was quiet, but an elderly woman across the street provided the missing pieces of the puzzle. The house had belonged to a man named James, a kind-hearted soul who had lived alone with his beloved puppy, Max. Poor James, the woman sighed. He was in an accident a few weeks ago. They took him to the hospital, but he never came back. Adam's stomach tightened. What happened to him? The woman hesitated. Last I heard, he was in a coma. The doctors weren't sure if he'd wake up. Adam's heart clenched. He had unknowingly walked past James' hospital room every day, completely unaware that his loyal puppy was waiting outside for him. The realization hit him like a wave: the puppy wasn't just waiting. It was hoping that its owner would return, just like he always had before. Chapter 5: A Doctor's Tears. Back at the hospital, Adam searched through patient records until he found James. The man was still in the ICU, his condition critical but stable. Machines beeped softly around him, keeping him alive. Adam stood by James' bedside, thinking about the tiny creature waiting outside, unaware of its owner's fate. Tears welled in his eyes. He was a man of medicine, used to dealing with life and death. But this raw display of loyalty and love shook him to his core. He wiped his eyes and made a decision. Max deserved to see his owner. Chapter 6: A Heartwarming Reunion. With the hospital administration's permission, Adam brought Max inside. The moment the puppy was carried into James' room, it whimpered softly, wriggling in Adam's arms. As soon as Max was placed on the bed, he crawled toward James, resting his tiny head on the man's arm. And then, something miraculous happened. A finger twitched. A monitor beeped erratically. James' eyes fluttered open. The nurses rushed in, alarm sounding. But all Adam could see was Max licking his owner's hand, a soft whine escaping his throat. And for the first time in weeks, James responded. A weak, hoarse whisper, Max. Chapter 7: Love and Hope. James' recovery was slow, but with Max by his side, his condition improved remarkably. Doctors marveled at the sudden change. Patients who had once been given little hope had turned around before, but never quite like this. The hospital staff, who had once pitied the lonely puppy outside, now watched with joy as Max and James sat together, their bond stronger than ever. And Adam, he had always believed in medicine, in science. But now, he had witnessed something even more powerful. Love. Unwavering. Unbreakable. Unconditional. When James was finally discharged, Max followed him out of the hospital, not as a lost, lonely pup, but as a beloved companion reunited with his best friend. And as Adam watched them leave, he knew he would never forget the little puppy who had waited outside a hospital every night, and the miracle that love had created.